Space whales? Nope, rather deal with devils. Chapter 58, Fan Fiction by Azazyel. Running a Black Friday sale for the next week, November 26th, 25 to December 3rd, 25, with a 40% off first month and yearly subscriptions to my Patreon with this code 3B10. I firmly shut down both Kunou and Aqua's bullying towards Kazuma. As no matter how scummy he was, no matter how much a pervert he was, you don't use a man's private porn history as a weapon to tear into them. That's just not done. Bro Code Rule 69, thou shalt not use the spank bank of another bro for your spanking, nor as a weapon to tear another bro down. The bro code was the rules in which men lived by even if they hadn't read the physical holy book itself. They could feel its laws and rules ingrained into their very DNA as a code in which to live by in order not to be an animal. Okay. Now I will show you 3 spells to show you how great I am. Aqua spoke excitedly as she twirled around, and then she began explaining the spell she was going to show me. First is the Greater Healing, which is a powerful healing spell that acts like napalm to the undead. She waved her flower-themed staff around, and from the tip of the closed flower bulb on the staff came a jet of golden healing light. But even as she was performing the spell, I activated my mystic eyes of death perception as I took in every bit of information on her spell, how it was cast, the staff's movements, the way her divinity and mana intermingled in order to cast the spell, etc. The golden bolt of healing power slammed into a tree nearby, and my lips twitched seeing its bark seemingly thicken and become stronger with the tree's leaves becoming a thick verdant green. You gotta want to make whatever you are hitting alive and in full health when you are casting it, you know, to give it that extra oomph. Aqua spoke excitedly, and I nodded slowly as I imagined the desire I had for healing Kunou, that desperation to make her whole. Then I mimicked the same route her magic flowed through her semi-divine form, and then, with Aqua's blessing acting as a tinting of divine energy, the same greater healing spell formed in my bare hands with the soft golden light. Ah, you cheat! Aqua yelled out as she stared at me in disgust with Kazuma. Looking devastated as I copied the archpriest spell, and as Aqua went to grab my hoodie to start shaking me back and forth, I let her. As I really wanted those 2 other spells she was offering, and slapping her across the ass to get her off me could very well make me lose those cheat spells if they were anything like this greater healing spell. You cheating cheat! Why can you copy a spell that takes skill points to get even for me in this lower world? Aqua demanded with tears brimming up in her eyes as her face scrunched up in agony. I couldn't help it. I said in an utter deadpan. Skill issue, I guess. As Aqua went back to shaking me back and forth, screaming at how things were unfair. And how she, as a goddess, should have had unlimited skill points or didn't even need to learn how to use her magic. Kunou bravely cut in formally. Lady Aqua, I was most curious as to the next spell. Aqua stilled and, realizing we were trying to treat her with the respect a goddess was typically owed, she coughed and patted down my hoodie to get rid of any wrinkles from her tantrum. Ahem. Yes, this next spell will solve all your problems in life if you can cast it. It washes away demons, devils, and most importantly, the undead in a tidal wave of holy water. Aqua manically laughed as she hefted Beldia's the demon general's head. She spun around like a professional athlete, and then, like she was throwing a shot put, she fucking yeeted the Dullahan's head into the distance with her raising up her hands with her staff held in both hands, and I focused hard on her figure as her mana surged. Holy flood of eradication. And as soon as the ground rumbled, I realized this spell was no joke, as from the ground came a massive geyser of silver glowing water that shoots hundreds of meters into the air violently with boiling heat. Boiling holy water. I can't wait to see Riser Phoenix's reaction to getting doused in this. Plus, Sona is pulling me into a raiding game as well. I thought with wonder as I watched with my mystic eyes as Beldia's head didn't even last a couple of seconds before melting away into nothingness. Kunou held on to Jake's hoodie with hidden fear as the roar of divinity and such powerful magic shook her down to her very soul as being a yokai. Holy water wasn't friendly to her in the slightest, and as though realizing that Jake picked her up into a bridal carry that made her nervously giggle on the inside. But he then thankfully floated up into the air as a wave of chest-high for him water slammed into the surroundings where they were but bypassed Aqua and that creep Kazuma. Aqua. Oi, what the hell? The town is going to be up our asses after flooding this area. Kazuma complained as he shivered at the wall of rushing water that was rising up past his head. But that. The irresponsible and insane goddess just cackled madly as she waved a hand through her blue hair, proudly and inadvertently flashed her lack of panties in her see-through skirt as she proudly spoke. I am the goddess of water and life, Kazuma. No one can drown in my waters unless I let them, ha ha ha. Truly, if this world has more of such goddesses and gods roaming the world so freely, uncaring of the destruction they cause. This world is doomed. Kunou thought with terror as she just wanted to go home. Away from that crazy goddess, but she also wanted to spend more time getting to know Jake. Thankfully, she had a week at least with him to get to know him, but even then, she already knew she was getting attached to him. She was the proud princess of the Western Yukai, and she had been trained to control her emotions. And thus she knew she very much wanted to stay in contact with him. He was strong, dependable, and didn't have weird motives for getting close to her. And he smelled nice when she hugged him, which filled her stomach with butterflies. Jake then went on to say with a clearly bemused smile. This land will at least be sanctified for a few years. If the town gives you any trouble, just say that you worked with the Axis cult due to a hive of undead spiders being found deep in the forest. Kunou and Aqua shared a look of utter disgust. And both nodded as such an excuse was perfectly valid to drive out such a terror in this land, should it have been real. Either way, with the holy water turning the forest ground into loamy marshlands, basically. Aqua, with a simple grin that belied the inner insanity and cruelty within, then clapped her hands and spoke happily. Now, to show off the greatest skill of an archpriest, resurrection. And Kunou watched with bated breath as Aqua revived a dead tree back to vibrant life with Jake's arms tightening around her form in a way that made Kunou have to hold in nervous giggles until she looked up shyly and then froze as she saw Jake's special glowing eyes had twin drops of dark blood escaping them as he shuddered and looked away from the sight of divinity performing a miracle. Are you okay, Jake? Jake, are you okay? Kunou asked with a deep flush entering her cheeks as she almost slipped up there. She almost let the intrusive thoughts win. At Kunou's weird verbal stumbling, I blinked and shook away the burning pain in my eyes as I gave a weak smile, with my eyes remaining closed until I could properly shut down my mystic eyes. Yeah. I just realized that looking at conceptual rebirth via snapping the soul of dead things past soul back into its body, and then, in a mixture of time manipulation and life manipulation, you force the body back into its previously peak state. Via special eyes that are meant to look at how to kill something was a bad idea. I explained with Kunou squeezing my hoodie in her hands. But I had learned it. Even if I felt like I could probably only do it like once a year due to the strain it would put on my soul via the amount of divinity I would need to channel through my very mortal form.